Absolutely fantastic. It's a Monday, and thank you for joining us on the Country Telegraph. Shortly, we'll go up to Townsville, one of the great areas of Australia, not just Queensland, one of the great areas of Australia. And we'll find out what makes Townsville one of those great areas. Firstly, though, we'll get to the headlines that's making news right around Australia. Victorian farmers are calling on the federal government to deliver fuel crisis payments to every primary producer in the May 12 budget, equal to the diesel rebate they had already received over the past 12 months, which I think is a great idea. We need to supporting those on the land. Northern New South Wales irrigators have been banned from harvesting water until September after the Menindee Lakes storage levels fell below a new 250 gigalitre trigger imposed by the state government. I think we'll talk to someone in the next day or two about that and see what the reality really is. Police and emergency services are presently at the scene of a helicopter crash in central West Queensland. And if we have any more info before we finish the show today, we'll relay that on to you. Now, Central Goldfields Shire residents in Victoria will soon have the chance to try one of Australia's fastest growing social sports. It's called pickleball, and it launches in Maryborough next week. My wife, she is a pickleball supporter, hasn't played it, but would love to play it. Thinks it looks fantastic. I wonder if our next guest plays pickleball or just eats pickles on a roll. Greater Shepparton City Council has wrapped up another massive week of sport with the 2026 GWM BMX Racing National Championships. They ended last Saturday on the 18th of April. What a great place Shepparton is too, and next to Mooroopna, which is known as the fruit salad capital of the world. Coming up next, we'll go to Townsville.
Welcome to Townsville, North Queensland, a dynamic region where ambition meets opportunity and investment potential knows no bounds. Here, diversity isn't a buzzword. It's the cornerstone of our economic resilience, with no single industry exceeding 15% of our gross regional product, ensuring stability and sustainable growth across numerous industry sectors. With a staggering $30 billion plus project pipeline slated over the next 5 years, Townsville stands as a beacon for investors seeking robust returns and expansive growth. As the Army capital of Australia and home to the only tertiary referral hospital in Northern Australia, our commitment to infrastructure and enhanced capability is unwavering. Townsville leads in green manufacturing with unparalleled wind and solar potential, and the largest general cargo port in Northern Australia. Supported by the most extensive expansion of Australia's energy network, our city is a global hub for clean energy and innovation. The largest population centre in Northern Australia, our world-class health and education facilities underpin a thriving community, focused on the industries of today and delivering on the vision of tomorrow. As world leaders in marine science, Townsville's reputation as a key player in global environmental research and innovation is unparalleled and uniquely North Queensland. With abundant strategic industrial land and seamless road, rail and air connectivity, this region is primed for business success. Our status as a thriving ecotourism destination and leading producer of globally in-demand commodities further solidifies Townsville's position as Australia's investment-ready gem. Whether you're looking to innovate, leverage our strategic location, or capitalise on booming industry sectors, discover why Townsville, North Queensland is investment ready.
Too many Territorians die or are injured each year because they're not wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts protect you and your family in a crash or if the car stops suddenly. So saving lives is this simple. Always wear your seatbelt.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Andrew Willcox MP is a born and bred North Queenslander, previous mayor of the Whitsundays, not a bad place to be a mayor of, let me tell you that. Andrew is a third-generation tomato farmer and small business owner willing to back local farmers and fishers, mine workers, tourism operators, small business owners, retirees and local families that make up his electorate. Andrew's portfolio is under the spotlight as Australia has been hit by the Iranian crisis and years of policy failure. First of all, Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Mike.
Tell me first of all about your portfolio.
So I'm the Shadow Assistant Minister for Manufacturing and Sovereign Capability. So what that's about is being able to, the sovereign capability in particular, is being about Australia doing more for itself and not being reliant on other countries. And of course the manufacturing is manufacturing more things in Australia rather than relying on our overseas imports.
Can you tell me what the primary needs of your electorate are and the great variety of small businesses from farming to tourism and fishing, and tell us about the makeup of it?
Yeah, so it's a dynamic area. So I've got the largest cane growing area within Australia. So we've got cane grown right from the south right up to the north of my electorate. We've got a huge horticultural crop in Bowen, over $500 million there, and that becomes the winter salad bowl of Australia. So harvesting between sort of May to Melbourne Cup Day, or early November, and feeding the whole of the nation and exporting quite a lot. And in the manufacturing side, we've got a huge area in Pageant, just around the Mackay area, which services the Bowen Basin just over the hill. So I don't have any mine. Actually, only got a little bit of gold mining, no coal in my electorate, but a huge service centre. And then the other part of manufacturing up the north, in Townsville at Woolgaroo, we've got Woolgaroo Steel, and they're actually building rail carriages and flatbeds for actually to provide service to the mining sector.
What about this fuel crisis? It's a real killer for it places a lot of. When I say killer, I mean it's a slow death at the moment, and it will ramp up very quickly unless the government can come up with some solutions. Tell me about Townsville. How's it handling lack of diesel and also just fuel?
So far we haven't actually run out, so that's been a good thing, but it's very, very expensive. And the biggest issue that we have in rural and regional Australia is everything revolves around transport. We don't have the 50-cent fares where you can just jump on a tram or jump on a bus or anything like that. We've actually got to drive around the place in cars. So, and everything, all our supplies come up from the city via trucks or via trains, again, burning diesel most of the time. And that's how all our farmers get their produce to market. So diesel in particular, more than unleaded fuel, is what keeps the country going up here.
You released some stats, wasn't too far back. According to the Australian Energy Regulator, 37,122 households in Queensland were unable to pay their power bills over the period of October to December 2025. This surely is a wake-up call for government that some of their policies aren't working that well at the moment. And secondly, if you have that many households unable to pay the bill for just electricity or gas, it means that we are in a lot of trouble, doesn't it?
It's alarming, Mike. So, fortunately, Ergon is doing some deals and being receptive to some of the people as good as what they possibly can be. But, power prices have gone up nearly 40%. So it's not just the generation of the electron that's the issue, it's also the distribution and the transport charges of it. So people are seeing huge increases of the bill, and it's not sustainable. It's actually making it very difficult for manufacturing as well. So we've got copper in our area. I've got the copper smelter, which is not actually in my country, it's out in Mount Isa, but I've got the refining in my region. And if we lose copper, copper is so important for our Defence Force, it's so important for our construction industry. There's a lot of copper used around houses and that as well. So I'm pleased that the Christopher Foley government helped do a bailout out smelter, but we really need to make sure all our industries are sustainable.
Even looking at nationally, what about this figure? 230,000 households in energy distress. That's an increase of nearly 70% in just 3.5 years. Now, that's the highest level of hardship on record. What do we do? What do we need to do federally to fix it?
One of the most important things that we need to do, like Labor's reckless race to renewables, is clearly not working. So we need to scrap net zero, which is what we're going to do. The coalition has got a cheaper, better, fairer plan to make sure that we can have electrons produced cheaper, but then also that we're not going to have the distribution costs. So let's talk about that. We're not against renewables. We're prepared to do our bit, but renewables should be on rooftops or over the top of Woolies or Coles or on top of airport car parks where you get the generation as well as you get the shade. They shouldn't be in good quality agricultural land. Wind turbines shouldn't be used where you've actually got to wipe out native vegetation to put wind turbines in that area. Put them where they're suitable. Put them also near where they're close to the grid. We're also agnostic to what sort of generation there is. So we're going to keep the coal-fired power stations going longer. Still going to do our bit for emissions, but we're going to do it in line with what all the other OECD countries are going to do, not be double what we are now.
Yeah, you mentioned wind turbines, put them where they best be. As a suggestion, I don't know whether this is scurrilous on my part, I would suggest about 100 kilometres out and then with some big sinkers around them and just drop them. That would work really well. But I'm not ever suggesting that we should vandalise those big monstrosities. But if you look at your area, though, your area have got all these turbines on the Great Dividing Range, and you're just, well, not you, but the developers are just bulldozing, destroying the Great Dividing Range, plonking these great windmills up. What happens when you have a fire? You can't.
Well, a lot of that's just in from me. That's just outside my area. There's one that is proposed to be within my area coming. We really need to have a look at that as well, because when you have a look at the whole equalisation's cost of energy, I don't know that wind turbines really stack up. So I think the other thing, when you have a look at all the different pictures of them, you have the wind turbine, but no one actually shows where everything's connected up. You've got to have, they all need to be connected up and then connected to the grid. And under Labor's ideology, with their new things, reckless race to renewables, they're looking at 28,000 kilometres of extra poles and wires. And when you have a look at your power bill, Mike, about half of it's in generation and half of it's in distribution network charges. So if we keep going down this track and the country keeps going down this track, people are going to be paying that high network charges forever, and I don't think that's sustainable.
I mean, your whole area, when they put because I'm very concerned about what they're doing with these turbines or renewable energy, and you are right, put it in a place where it's not going to impact the natural wildlife and fauna. But if you put a turbine on top of your, a whole bunch of turbines, wind turbines on top of the Great Dividing Range, first of all, you have to clear it. Then within 400 metres either side, the animals, the wildlife can't exist because they can't stand the some sort of noise that's emitted from the turbines themselves. So you got a kilometre basically straight through the Great Dividing Range. In the meantime, animals are dying. Once you destroy the Great Dividing Range, it's very hard to bring it back. You have a bushfire because they're so tall. You can't use air support to put those fires out. Now you know how bushy it is. How the hell are the ground crews going to get up there? They can't. So what you have is you have this, and bushfires are part of Australia's history. But don't have a bushfire, you're not in Australia. But you if you can't put them out, and that's what's going to happen. The Great Dividing Range and those close by are in terrible peril.
Exactly right, and also the erosion as well. So once that hilltop has been levelled, and then you get rain and everything on that, then that runs out, and some of that dirt could end up out the Great Barrier Reef, smothering our beautiful coral, and we certainly don't want that either. So massive issues with the wind turbines, and like I said, solar has got to be in the right place.
Australians are pretty easygoing folk. I mean, not so much now, but she'll be right, mate. Let's have a beer. Who do you feel on the footy? Better say the right team, by the way. All that sort of stuff. Now, and when it came to the increasing cost of energy or electricity, we sort of went, a bit of a whinge about it, but all right, better lump it. Why are we not so involved as a population in saying we demand government look after us, bring the bloody price down, stop these renewables, look at our coal-fired power stations, even look at nuclear power. It's as safe as anything, safer than wind turbines.
Well, I think that's the trouble. I think a lot of Australia has just gone, oh, okay, listening to government, but they've been sold a dream here. Like, the reality of it is it's simply not working, and you can see that by the bills that people have. And we see the energy minister get up there almost every day and say we all know renewables is the cheapest form of energy. But if that's the case, Mike, why are our power bills going up so much? Why is everything going through the roof? It doesn't make sense. So I think it's time that we make sure that we've got reality and not ideology. A lot of people have just gone, oh, okay, this is really good for the environment. But it hasn't been good for the environment either. Actually, if you have a look at the emissions, 90% of the emissions that have been reduced since Labor has taken place has been by shutting up agricultural land. Now, that's a fact. So, and by shutting it up, people think, oh, that's really good. But it's not good, because what happens with all that land, it just builds up pests and diseases. And the pests and diseases, they don't get the memo. The pigs don't know, oh no, I've got to stay on this side of the fence. So then they go through and then they wreck the neighbours, or they wreck all the farmers' good vegetables and crops. And same as all the weeds that build up, all their seeds and everything, fly next door, go into the farmers' areas, the grazers' areas, and become a big problem. So locking up ground rather than actually managing it is not a success story that people think it is.
Yeah, pretty wild. Let me just read you this story before we go on and get your thoughts on that. This is how stupid government is. Farmers, they require water. A bit out of your area, but I read it before. New South Wales, or Northern New South Wales irrigators have been banned from harvesting water until September after the Menindee Lake storage levels fell below a new 250. It's a new 250 gigalitre trigger imposed by the state government. If you were a farmer, what would you do? I mean, we can't. I was told off for saying that perhaps my dad's remedy, because he was on the land of a 12 gauge, but I was told perhaps I shouldn't be saying that because they may take it that I'm inciting violence, and I'm not. But the farmer is getting the bum steer, isn't he?
Oh, exactly right. But interesting enough, to the first election that I contested, which was 22, we took forward a plan to have for Urena Dam. That was funded, and over half of it was funded by the private sector, all ready to go. And unfortunately, Labor came in and they canned that, and they canned it because they don't believe in building dams. Now, when you've got a dry continent, why wouldn't you want to build a dam? And Urena Dam was going to provide water for mining use, for urban use, for agriculture, and there was even a component of hydro on there. So, and that was unfortunately axed. So I just simply don't get that. I think we should be building dams. We've got a dry continent, and after we build one, make some plans and build some more.
Well, we have a problem in Queensland on how to build dams. Our track record's not great, is it?
Well, maybe not, but I tell you what, just in my electorate is the Bendigo Falls Dam, and it's a crack of a dam, and it's going all right.
Good on you. But we do need dams, but we have, we've been captured by the woke. I was going to say the Greens, but the Greens do it for the colour of money. They don't do it for the colour of the planet. Great chatting. We should do more of this. If somebody wants to find out more about you or make contact with you, have a natter about energy or your football team, I bet you I know who you follow.
Go the Cowboys.
Dion, I wonder why you follow the Cowboys. Hey, do you think you'd be empowered? Do you think you'd be an MP if you followed another side?
Probably not, but I wouldn't. I've been a supporter of the Cowboys since they first started, and I tell you what, I still think they're going all right. Okay, they lost their last game, but they won the 4 before that. And go Todd Payton and go the Crew. I think they're going all right.
Good on you. A message paid and provided by. But no, I think the Cowboys are great too, and I'm not a great rugby or NRL supporter. I do follow the Broncos a bit. I'm an AFL tragic.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't you be like that. Who do you follow? Anyone in the AFL, by the way?
No, I do not.
Don't say it so intently.
The Cowboys keep us pretty busy, and we've got a fantastic stadium in Townsville as well. You're right on the action. Yeah, it's really, really good stadium to watch the football, and people come from all over the region to come in and just enjoy it. It's a fantastic night.
Nothing better than a pie and a beer. What a terrible combination.
No, it's good for you.
It is indeed. I like this guy already. And so if somebody wants to find out more about you, they can just go to your website, which is?
Just if they just want to Google Andrew Willcox, everything will come up. So we've got a website there. We've got our office, which is located in Mackay. If I can't help you, one of our friendly team will be able to. And we're a community service organisation, so there's no wrong door policy for us. People come through the door, they want some help. We'll try to help them as best we can.
Good on you. I'd love it. Most of this is great. The Cowboys, not so great. But anyway, it's another story. Andrew Willcox MP, thank you for being a guest here on the Country Telegraph.
Our mantra has always been, we are here to softly promote and softly build up all of the winemakers of the region to say, hang on, what you do is great, what you produce is fantastic, and what we drink is well worthy of anything, anywhere, not just in Australia, but around the world.
I'm planting varieties from Cyprus, which is amazing, and looking at doing other Greek varietals too. So I think by doing this, it's really going to keep our culture strong here in Australia, because obviously we're very far away from Greece.
I then got the opportunity to make wines that I thought were suited to this region, and then put a little bit of finesse in, oak treatments, etc., to make them softer and more approachable wines.
It's pretty cool to be able to provide high value wines at those lower price points.
There's certainly quite a few of our varieties that you probably wouldn't find elsewhere in Australia. If you do, it's probably from our grapes.
A Riverland wine is above and beyond what you'll find anywhere else.
You know, the whole objective was to be proud of the region we're from, so Riverland is stamped clearly on the bottle and always will be.
There's a lot of positivity amongst the smaller winemakers, passion and pride in what they're doing. They love to showcase the region. It's a wonderful region.
Yeah, I think, people will be pleasantly surprised by what they get out of the Riverland.
Buy Australian made and you're backing local jobs, a stronger economy, and the way we live right here. Australian made right here.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. All sorts of things are happening. Here I am going like that to my last guest, and a switcher cut back to me. Terrible. Anyway, beauty. Recent rains have given Aussie farmers a valuable head start on sowing this season's winter crop, but higher freight, fuel and fertiliser costs are squeezing margins across the country. Bendigo Bank Agribusiness latest monthly commodity update says, now a question mark hangs over whether the benefit of the rains will offset the impact of ongoing international instability. And our guest, Bendigo Bank Agribusiness Senior Manager of Industry Insights is Eliza Redfern. First of all, Elizabeth, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah, well, you'd cut to you a bit early. Lucky you weren't doing something.
No, all good, no, all good.
Tell us about the insights reports from Bendigo Bank.
Yeah, for sure. So we have quite a lot of reports that our team produces. So we've got a team of agricultural analysts effectively specialising in a lot of Australia's key agricultural markets. Now, as we know, there's always a lot that's happening across agricultural markets, especially in this current time. So the purpose of the reports that we produce are effectively to help inform producers and the broader industry as well in terms of helping them make better business decisions. And of course, that flows through to our customers as well. So ultimately, it's all around producing as much information and data as possible and trying to put that into a digestible way. So we've got a few different reports that are available on our website, whether that's our monthly updates, which I think we're talking a bit about today, but also around farmland values, which is always a very topical one, or even our forecasts for the months ahead. So that one usually gets a bit of traction too. So
April's key conclusion, let me read this: good weather for sowing winter crops, but many in this sector face serious headwinds for inputs such as freight, fuel and fertiliser. Is this the worst ag outlook we've seen for quite a while?
Look, it's a good question. I think Australian agriculture, is effectively no strangers to some tough seasons, right? Obviously in Australia, we get a whole variety of conditions, whether that's weather or whether that's, the broader market as well, which we're sort of copying both at the moment on that front. But ultimately, I think it comes down to still some of those significant constraints. So still variable weather conditions and, as you've mentioned, higher fuel, freight and fertiliser costs. So effectively what that boils down to is, it means that farmers really do have to adapt as per usual, but it does make business more difficult for sure.
How do they adapt if they haven't got any fuel?
Well, it's a good question. I think the level of exposure really does vary, and the reports that we've been hearing is majority of the situations is more around the cost pressures. So ultimately that does mean, that prioritisation on farm does need to occur, and there are different tactics that farmers are taking for that. But ultimately, the question is really around how much longer does this conflict continue on for, and whether that branches out more to, I guess, widespread supply constraints.
The areas that are doing it hardest are horticulture and dairy, and I would imagine that's because of the high reliance on diesel. If this continues, it won't just be the hardest hit areas being horticulture and dairy. It's going to be a lot larger and more severe, isn't it?
Look, it's a good point to raise, and I think for those industries, there are probably a couple different areas. I think producers for both horticulture and dairy are a lot more exposed to some of the higher fuel and fertiliser costs that we're seeing, because they tend to purchase, especially for fertiliser, a lot more in a hand-to-mouth fashion, as opposed to crop growers, for instance, that generally will have a fair chunk of their needs secured in anticipation of the winter crop planting season. So from that perspective, there are, I guess, increased pressures on their margins there, especially as in some areas, they're dealing with variable weather conditions. So whether that's dry or wet conditions. So up in the Murray, obviously, some of the rainfall that they've had during February and March has been a constraint for a fair few horticulture producers.
It's funny, they want rain, and when it rains, it's too much. Then they want rain, and it doesn't rain. It's a hard life being on the farm, isn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, in terms of, just managing some of those constraints or those, I guess, those elements, if you will, that are outside of your control, it can make things difficult.
I just want to know your views on the recent EU-Australia trade agreement. Now, it had positive outcomes for olive oils and wines, which is good, but less for the ag sectors, some of the ag sectors. What are those, if you wouldn't mind just letting us know, some of those sectors that were not as happy? And I mean, one of them has been making the news for those who have sheep. It's not such a great deal at the end of the day. What are other areas that sort of missed out?
Yeah, look, it's pretty varied, and I think that this usually happens right when we're talking about trade agreements or free trade agreements. In terms of agriculture is very broad, right? So there's obviously a lot of sectors within that, and the outcomes really can vary. And I think this agreement is one where we've seen different outcomes depending on the industry. So you've obviously mentioned for wine, for oil. I think we're likely to see cheaper biscuits, for instance, coming into Australia, but in terms of our exported products, again, wine is one of those categories, fruit and vegetable as well, and for some dairy products, there's been, I guess, some advantageous outcomes within there, but ultimately, as you've alluded to, there's been a lot of noise within the media and within industries around some of these outcomes, a little bit of disappointment from some of these industries and groups in terms of what those outcomes have looked like. So I think overall speaking, some positive developments within that, but as we do typically see within trade agreements, it really does vary.
Are there opportunities to liberalise bilateral trade with some countries given the situation in the Middle East?
Yeah, look, great question, and I think ultimately this is probably where I defer to the government in terms of their measures and the groups that are working with them in terms of what areas they're prioritising and what agreements might be in the pipeline. But ultimately, I think it's an increasingly volatile environment, isn't it? I mean, we've seen it with Trump's tariffs over 2025, and even though there are these agreements out there, there are obviously elements that really can, throw a spanner in the works. So I think it's an area that is really volatile, can be quite not unstable is probably too strong of a word, but it's unpredictable to an extent. So I think in terms of the Middle Eastern conflict and what we're seeing in terms of shipping routes and things, that obviously trade flows will adapt and change, but there's still constraints there. But it's still a very volatile environment, and I guess probably calling out one key area that we're focused on at the moment, or that industry is looking to, is around the China safeguard quota for cattle, for beef. Obviously, where there's been a lot of talk about that since it came in, or it was announced back in January. Now, ultimately, we're expecting Australia, because of the volume of beef that we've been exporting throughout the opening months of this year, we are expecting to get towards that quota or reach it as early as May. So ultimately, that will have some future headwinds for beef exports there.
When do we see May insights out?
Yeah, so our next monthly update will be on the 9th of May. So it's usually the second Tuesday of every month. And we've got a lot of our other reports available on the website too.
Do you produce special reports on agriculture or how Australian regions are affected by economic conditions?
Yeah, good question. So in terms of our monthly updates, it's probably the spot to get your most timely updates in terms of how the broader environment is really impacting our agricultural markets and our commodities. We, of course, have our chief economist who produces economic updates on the website every month as well. So you can access those too. And then we've, of course, got our deep dives, as mentioned, around farmland values is on the website as well, which gives you, I guess, that really regional level and state level detail, especially when we're talking about, the impacts of interest rates and what that might mean for both selling and buying activity. And we've actually got that report coming out on May 5th as well. So keep your eyes open for that one.
If somebody wants to find out more about what you're doing or what Bendigo Bank is doing, how do they do that?
Yes, so the address is really long. So my advice is going to be just go to the Bendigo Bank website or search Bendigo Bank Agricultural Insights, and that should take you right to the spot.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Eliza Redfern there from the Bendigo Bank. This is the Country Telegraph.